Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am making a vintage casserole in my crock pot from my 1975 crock pot cooking cookbook. All right, if you're new here, hi, I'm Claire. Welcome, come on in, make yourselves comfortable. I love a bit of vintage cooking. I have a large collection of vintage and retro cookbooks, some from my grandmother, some from like thrifting. I found this one at a thrift store. This is the original Rival Crock Pot cooking cookbook. It's from 1975. And when I bought this, I made it my mission to find one of these old crock pots. If you watch me, if you've seen some of my other ones, you know the day I found that was the best day. I do have a vintage 1970s crock pot that we are going to make this casserole in. Also, I will leave down below my playlist of all of my vintage recipes, so if you want to see some of the other interesting things we've tried, make sure you check out that playlist. So I have decided on one called brunch casserole, which, because it takes 7 to 9 hours, I don't know when in the world you would be expected to start this in order for it to be done for brunch. So we are going to be having it for dinner today. But nonetheless, brunch casserole, here we go. All right, for this recipe, we are going to need some very accessible items, no weird vintage things that don't exist anymore, which I do run into sometimes with these cookbooks. So this is something you could definitely recreate. We have eggs, nutmeg, an onion, olive oil, oregano, garlic, mushrooms, salt, milk, lean ground beef, frozen chopped spinach, sharp cheddar, and flour. The first thing we're gonna do is my least favorite thing. We're gonna cut up this onion, and it's gonna hurt my eyeballs, and I've tried everything, and there is just nothing I can do. I should just have my husband chop them and like put them in the freezer for me or something, because it's so very painful. Now that we have our onion chopped, we are going to brown it with our lean ground beef. Now the recipe does technically call for 1.5 pounds. However, this is only 1.2 pounds. I had to get it because it was 30% off, okay? I know that they were budget queens in 1975. I'm a budget queen today. It's gonna be like slightly less beefy, but I don't care. This is also the point in time where it calls for 2 tablespoons of olive oil for browning the meat and sort of softening the onions. I picked the smallest effing pan for this. What is wrong with me? All right, now that I've made a total mess, we are gonna call this lightly browned, okay? It's definitely still quite raw, but it's, you know, it's mostly brown. I'm gonna go ahead and drain this really quickly, although because this is quite lean, there's not a lot of fat coming off of it, but we're gonna drain it anyway. All right, next we have our lovely vintage crock pot here, and we are going to grease it well. And I know this is not very 1975 of me. I'm just throwing a little cooking spray in there. And now we're going to put our meat onion mixture in it. All right, next it is saying to add all of the ingredients except the milk, the eggs, and the cheese, and give it a little stir. So that's what we're gonna do. We do have this chopped spinach. It did call for 10 ounces of frozen chopped spinach, but they wanted it to be thawed and drained. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick. I do just love the packaging on a bit of frozen spinach. Like, I love that it comes in like a little paper box. I just feel like more things should come like that. I don't know. We also have this can of sliced mushrooms, 4 ounces, but we're going to drain it before we put the mushrooms in. We have 1/2 teaspoon of oregano. Something I usually note in these recipes is that the amount of seasoning is always grossly tiny. So 1/2 teaspoon of that. But interestingly, we also have 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, which to me seems like a lot of nutmeg. So I don't know, man. I don't know how this is gonna go. We also have 2 teaspoons of salt. It also calls for 2 minced cloves of garlic. I'm using jarred garlic, and 2 cloves is like, I don't know, a teaspoon. That's probably being generous. We're also going to add 3 tablespoons of flour. All right, we're gonna go ahead and give this a little stir. I mean, honestly, all these look like flavors that I enjoy, so I really do have high hopes for this. I think the weird ingredient that sticks out for me is the nutmeg, so we'll see how that goes. All right, now we are going to mix our milk and our eggs together separately. And for this, we're gonna use 6 eggs. Now, if you follow me or you see me do other recipes with eggs, you might notice that I'm using chicken eggs this time. A lot of times I use quail eggs because we raise quail and I always have quail eggs on hand. However, 4 quail eggs equals 1 chicken egg, and I just like did not want to crack that many quail eggs. It just seemed like too much of a task, so we're using chicken eggs. We are also using 3/4 of a cup of milk. I also think it's interesting the points at which we are adding the spices, because like if I was making this just like making up a recipe myself, I would probably have seasoned the meat separately, and I would probably also put like salt and pepper in this. So I do think like that's a little bit interesting how they're having the seasonings kind of go in. The seasonings. The 2. Like, you can't tell me this wouldn't be improved with a little bit of black pepper. Like, come on. All right, now we are gonna go ahead and add it to the crock pot. Oh, wow, Claire. We love a piece of paper in our casserole. Okay, anyway, the last step is to sprinkle some more ground nutmeg on top. So we're really going in for this nutmeg, man. So just throwing a little of that. And the only ingredient we haven't used yet is our cheese, but that's gonna come at the end. So time to cook. And our recipe says to cook this on low for 7 to 9 hours. I found that using the vintage crock pot has been really great with this cookbook, because today's crock pots are just like a little hotter and they like just cook things a little faster, and some of my times are kind of off when I do them with my modern crock pot. So keep that in mind if you're gonna do slow cooker recipes that are old. But yeah, we're gonna throw it on low, and it says low for 7 to 9 hours. So perfect, we're gonna have this for dinner. And we're gonna add our cheese right before it's time to eat it. So we're just gonna set it and forget it. All right, you guys, it has been 7 hours, and the recipe says 7 to 9 hours or until firm. She's firm. It looks not that pretty, I'm not gonna lie. But you know, it could be delicious, I don't know. Like, the hue is a bit greener than I was expecting, but I think maybe that has to do with the brown pot, or I don't know. I don't know. It's just, it's not as yellow as one would imagine an egg dish to be. But, you know, it is what it is. And we still have to add our cheese. So I'm gonna go ahead and grate half a cup of this cheese. I'm gonna put it on the top, and I'm going to cover it just until it's like melted, and then we're gonna eat some dinner. All right, there we go. There's some nicer color. Wow. I'm expecting this to only take, I don't know, a couple minutes. All right, it's been a few minutes. The cheese is melted. Gianni, you ready? You ready for dinner?
Is it eggs?
Yes. 'Tis quite eggy.
Oh my God.
Don't look like that. So she does look rather cheesy. That's good, right? You ready? Oh, that's a sound. It's beef, don't worry.
Oh. Okay.
Just double checking that it's, you know, cooked all the way through. And it is, you know, it's firm in there. There you go. I also think it's interesting that this is a very low carb recipe. which was not at all popular in 1975. So that bit is a little bit fun. All right, it is time. Time for 1975 crock pot brunch casserole. Sunday? What? Sunday. You are not allowed to have any. But honestly, it's pretty good.
It's like corned beef.
It's not corned beef, it's just ground beef. So my main concern was that it wasn't gonna be seasoned enough and that the nutmeg is kind of weird. Do you see how like there's like a flavor that you can't quite place?
Yeah.
It's nutmeg.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is interesting, but it's not bad. And also I was expecting it to be more like a frittata almost, but there's so much meat in there that the egg isn't the dominant item.
It doesn't even feel like there is egg in here.
That's so strange. Like I thought it was gonna be like an egg loaf. And I even used like slightly less meat than the recipe called for. So this is definitely a mostly meat recipe and the egg just holds it together. Yeah. Which is interesting. I was expecting it to literally be an egg loaf. I do think it's missing pepper. And I would maybe put like a dash of cayenne in there maybe. The garlic I can taste. The nutmeg, you know.
Now that you've told me, I can't untaste it.
You can't untaste the nutmeg.
It's strange now.
No, I think it's good. I like that. And now I'm curious about using nutmeg in other ways. And in other recipes I wouldn't normally consider it. I always associate nutmeg with like pumpkin spice and not like savory things, you know?
It's weird because it's salty and then nutmeg.
Yeah. It is quite salted, I will say. It's pretty good. I'm gonna give it like a 7 out of 10. But if we're judging it solely on...
it's no ham banana.
It's no ham banana, no way. If we're judging it solely on vintage recipes, how does this compare to some of the other vintage recipes we've done?
I would say high.
Yeah, it's like a 9 out of 10 compared to a lot of the vintage stuff.
Yeah. On the vintage scale.
On the vintage scale, for sure. Well, alrighty then. There was our brunch casserole from 1975. Thanks, Gianni, for swooping in here and giving it a little taste test. I know you guys really like it when it's something really gross that Gianni has to try, but it was his lucky day today.
Not this time.
So thank you so much for watching. If you want to see my other vintage recipe videos, I will again leave that playlist down below. Yeah, come back for more of this type of content, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!